You know, there's a lot of bad bosses out there. I've had my share of bad bosses, and honestly, right now in my YouTube career, YouTube is the bad boss. It is bad, and I am doing bad. But I don't want to talk about me and me doing bad. I want to talk about this girl. This girl's name is Shannon, and Shannon has a story to tell of how she quit Disney. This is Shannon, aka the artist who quit Disney. Her branding is that, not me branding her as that. She runs a channel about growing your business and channel. It's a difficult time for her, it seems, but I want to talk about this because I think it could help a lot of people.
Here we go. Hey everyone, for those who don't know me, my name is Janet, and up until last Friday, I was a story artist at Disney Animation. I've been working in the Hollywood animation industry for the past 4 years, and in this video, I'm going to go into all the reasons why I've decided to leave my job at Disney.
You know, Shannon is an animator, and an animator has covered her before. His name's Becker, and I'll leave a link down below because I won't be getting into the animation specifics of this that much, though I imagine it's similar to how my time in game design was structured. I'm going to be tackling this video as somebody who's a young creative filmmaker and entrepreneur, and we'll talk about it in more general terms so that way you, the audience, can take something away from this. I'll also be giving I'll be structuring this in a way so that way you as a young creative can understand your creativity and move forward to actually making stuff and being less worried about what you're doing or how you're doing it or where you are when you're doing that thing.
I thought animation was going to be different than having a normal 9-to-5 office job. It would be where creativity is all that mattered. I'd be able to work with people I looked up to all my life. And if I was lucky enough to get hired, I'd be considered the best of the best. All I had to do was work hard, prove myself as an artist, and maybe one day I'd be given the opportunity to create my own movie or TV show as a director or showrunner. But the reality is, this is all a lie. The animation is a corporate business. You're a cog in a machine.
So as you're gonna see as we get through this video, Shannon kind of has a rose-tinted view of the animation industry. And I think this is something that occurs to all young people in industries, and I think millennials in particular are experiencing this right now. But it's when you get into the field and you realize that basically all of your expectations are completely false. I know I've kind of had that with the film industry, and I've talked about that briefly. And I'll get into some more detail with that once we finally sit down, because this setup that I got running right now is a little sketchy, and I'm afraid to walk around with it. So you spend a lot of time in the field, and that mysticism associated with it, it kind of fades. And pretty much all work fields, if you're passionate about it and then you go into it, you're going to go through that period where what you thought you were going to do and what you actually do are two different things, because a lot of what you see about the job isn't shown to the public, really. I mean, for example, let's say you work in social work, and as a result you help a lot of people, but you become disillusioned with the field because of all the paperwork and pointless meetings, and many of the people you help don't want it or don't succeed when you give them all the tools at their disposal. As a result, you become very disillusioned with the field, and maybe you're a high-ranking person in that field, or you're somebody who's very successful, but you don't necessarily enjoy it or feel fulfilled by it like you used to. You know, another example is that of the games field, and let's say you're a programmer and you end up spending a lot more time talking with executives about the logistics of the things rather than actually building the things that would help in the long term. And as a result, you become a disillusioned programmer that figures, well, this code can be sloppy because I don't really feel passionate about this project. Now, for the social worker, you might have helped, you know, hundreds of people in your day and age, and as a result, you've also helped people succeed. Instead of looking at it as seeing the 90 people that failed and blaming it on yourself for the work that you did, even if you gave it your all, look at the 10 people that you helped that actually succeeded, and maybe they turn around from being people who were addicted to meth to now graduating college, or people who are in considerable debt that are now not in that and, achieving the goals that they had set out for themselves, you didn't fail 90 people, you helped 10. If you're a programmer and you're not passionate about a project, yeah, you can phone it in and make all this shitty code, but think about it if you actually make code that is optimized and you take notes and log all your information much more effectively. Not only have you made something that is much more beautiful to look at in terms of code, what happens when a new programmer joins the company and is now absolutely befuddled at the mess of code you've made? Well, now you've just harmed somebody else in that regard. So putting passion in the process of working on the project is going to make it a lot easier for everybody else involved. And just because you're not super interested in it doesn't mean that that young programmer wasn't actually interested in it.
Years have actually made me realize that these directors and showrunners don't actually have as much power as you think they do. You now answer to the executives and people much more powerful than you. Here's one example of a terrible note that I got from an executive. I was on a preschool show where we were given this note that we are no longer allowed to draw angry eyebrows. Why, you may ask? The executive said it's because we don't want to teach children being angry is okay.
The way I've come to look at commercial creative work and creative work in general is to love the process, mainly because we become prisoners of our own devices and as a result become very disillusioned. I've spent quite a long time doing that, and I think that I'm starting to finally heal from the places that I was. But for example, in terms of YouTube, I honestly thought that, when I did Loudmouths, that by now this time that we would have had an office space and been making videos in person and doing all these different things. My expectations were not aligned with the reality of what was going on. As a result of all this, I really became disillusioned with the work that I was making, and I began to hate it a lot more. I moved away from the parts of it that I enjoyed and focused on all the negativity surrounding the work I did. And this is coming from somebody who's self-employed and gets to basically work whenever he wants. So for the young creatives out there, what would I have to say to this? Well, I'd say instead of being in love with the work you do, love the process of working on those things. You're not always going to be working on the next greatest game, the next American great movie, the next biggest hit single, the next biggest animation piece, but you can put in 100% effort and know that you did your job in a way that was good for everybody involved. You can know that even though the project is kind of crappy, that you weren't the person who was crappy, it was somebody else. The process of working on it should be the enjoyment, not the work itself. I'm probably stealing this from some other philosopher, but you should love doing, not love what you do. Or in terms of art, love creating, don't love the things that you create.
My school, the recruiters, the studio itself told me what I was walking into, because then maybe I'd be able to make a more informed decision about my future career. For example, you know what being a lawyer, doctor, barista, cashier at a retail job means. You know what kind of work culture you're signing up for. I instead felt lied to.
Regardless of what field you work in, you probably realized by now, if you've worked enough, that what you signed up for and what you got are a little different. Yeah, you know what your job is going to be like if you're a barista, but you can't possibly know what kind of customers you're going to have or what kind of social interactions that job is going to entail, what kind of conflicts and problems are involved with that, and what the work culture is like in a different place between, say Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks. Same for a lawyer. A lawyer is a very general term. Some defense lawyers go in and day out having to believe that who they are defending is innocent and defending that person, even if though they are guilty. It's hard, and you don't know if every day you're going to walk into that office and have somebody who is truly innocent that you must defend, but you have to believe that. You don't know exactly what that job is going to entail. You just don't know. It might say, I'm a lawyer on the tin when you sign up for that job, but saying I'm a lawyer and experiencing what a lawyer is like is different for everybody who becomes a lawyer. The point of me saying all of this is because what I think Shannon is saying here is really naive, and I don't think it's necessarily fair to say that you know what these jobs are going to be, but you don't know what this one is going to be. Let me be honest with you guys. I'm in my 5th year of college now. I've been taking longer than what people would normally do. Actually, I don't even remember if it's 5th. Yeah, I guess it would be 5th year. But the point is that school and real life are not the same at all. And you can go through it and be an excellent student. But being an excellent student does not prepare you for the trials of the real world, which is why you need that experience in order to handle the conflicts and problems that come up in real life.
There we go. Yeah, I get what Shannon says about being a cog in a machine, you know. I think a lot of entry-level employees can feel that way, especially on creative projects. I mean, if you're a PA on a film set, I've literally heard of people having to, I mean, first of all, they don't get mileage for doing this, which was really annoying. But basically, you just drive talent to and from set, and that's your job, and your job is to wait around. And also, make sure you don't look at the actor because they don't like it when the normies look at them, which is, you know, it's all awful stuff, you know, and really a lot of it is, you know, perception for a lot of this, but then also there is a portion of feeling not valued on a team, and a lot of that comes down to poor management, and you know, you want to make sure you work with people like that, right? I'll also say this though, if you go into every project that you work on feeling like a cog in a machine, feeling miserable about the people you're around, and doing all this creative work and feeling kind of drained and not like you're valued, people on the team aren't going to want to work with you. You want to be a person people enjoy spending time around if you're going to do creative work. If your attitude towards everything is that what you do doesn't matter on this project, or that people just don't value me or whatever, then people will kind of look at you in a way that like, oh, why would I want to work with her? She thinks so shittily of me. And given a couple of other clips from Shannon that Ethan Becker has covered, I highly recommend, again, that you watch this video. But you know, Shannon really kind of comes off as somebody who's like, I don't really like what these people are. I don't want to be around these people. I'm better than these people. And you know what? You might be a crappy employee, but if you got a good attitude, you're going to be more likely to be brought on the team because, well, it's going to be good for creative energy. People want to be creative around other people who also feel creative, and people who inspire them with their good energy. It's much more important to be a good team player, and it can help boost who you are and your talents, even if you're lacking in comparison to somebody else. It's not necessarily who is the best artist, but who can work the best in a team. And when you work on creative projects, you need to be able to compromise and work as a team. There's a guy on a jet ski right now, so look at that. I don't know if that got picked up or not, but we'll find out, right? Find out, editing Diesel. Did I find out?
The reason is that it's not about how good you are, it's about who you know. What they say about actors in Hollywood also applies to animation and also every single corporate job. Friends tend to hire friends, so good luck getting in if you don't know anyone. Getting hired is not a sign that you're good enough or the best of the best at all. Once you're hired, in order to keep climbing that corporate ladder, it's more beneficial for you to form alliances or cliques rather than to be good at your job. And what that translates to is unqualified people fail upwards while many talented people are passed up for a promotion and ignored. It encourages.
Alright, so let's talk about that nepotism thing now that we're back at the desk and I can talk about specifics more. You know, this kind of falls into the thing that people want to work with people that other people enjoy the company of. Nobody wants to work with a dick. And I don't think a lot of people have a problem with that kind of nepotism. The thing I think they are annoyed with, and I know I'm personally annoyed with, having experienced it, is, you know, somebody who's a talentless hack or just famous, or, you know, somebody who has a leg up on the race because they have some tangential relationship to a famous celebrity actor or something else. That's something that happens in the film industry quite a lot. I think one of the Coppola descendants recently, I found out, went to NYU. Why? because he is a descendant of that. And that is something that's annoying because that was my dream college. I think the nepotism thing is a double-edged sword because when you have a network of like-minded people that you enjoy the company of, you're gonna get work. And because you're a good person, you'll be around more good people. When I look at Shannon, I see her talking about these social situations more or less as if she went into them looking to network instead of meeting people. There's a reason that there's a stereotype of the Hollywood socialite who likes to name drop at nighttime parties. It's because that person is real and everybody's experienced that person inside the working field. And it's hard to break into that next level, I'm not gonna lie. You know, it feels like you have to build that network. But again, if you go into the intention of making social ties specifically for business, you're not gonna make any social ties, which is something I learned firsthand. It is hard to realize that you can't do that if you want to actually be around people. Think about it like this in terms of film, right? We have production assistants. In film, young production assistants work long hours and get paid garbage. Extras sometimes get paid better or, you know, get better food, better treatment, you name it. Getting your foot in the door of the film industry is backbreaking unless you're somebody like the child of a famous actor, director, you name it. You are going to have a hard time. You know, I work in a place that helps facilitate the getting your foot in the door for underprivileged youths, stuff like that, underrepresented youths. But, you know, it's going to be hard for them, you know, being from those communities and trying to get into film. Literally, you can be neither underprivileged or underrepresented, and you will still have a hard time breaking into the film industry. All right, now that we're back at the desk, there's going to be a little bit of a tonal shift here, because I think I've given some solid work advice, even not having as much work experience as necessary, though I think I might be a little more lived than Shannon. But I don't want to say that I know what her life is like. That's not this. But I will say this, Shannon kind of gives me a snobby vibe. Unintentionally, she might be doing that, or intentionally, or that just might be her personality. I think it goes without saying that the branding that she has done is awful for her personal image. As a professional creative, as somebody who considers himself an artist, who does things that I would consider art, this is a bad look. You know, let me show you an example of why I think Shannon might have missed the mark.
First you hate me, then you think I'm a thought leader. So weak-willed and dumb, simple words give you a seizure. What's wrong with her? How could she quit Disney? I know you do, but I don't live on my knees. Shh, ignore her, don't fucking let them see. What, you scared I'll spill the tea?
This is rough, and it implies a lot of things that are not good. We reacted this on stream at FPS Diesel, by the way, over on Twitch, if you want to hang out on stream sometime. But, you know, it comes off in the unconfidence of her hand movements to so much. The attitude of this diss track, the point that she's making a diss track in the first place over what is essentially a workplace X. You know, you had a bad time in this studio, so make art independently. Do that. Make an independent animation pilot. Do that. That has not been done. It is this.
Away till you finally get to have a say. I said, fuck that. I'm not a small dick exec's doormat.
You know, when I look at this video, it kind of reads like Shannon is the example that older generations use to describe the problem with young hires in the workplace. And it almost seems as if Shannon didn't have a lot of work experience before getting into the workplace. And the attitude associated with that and based on this video
implies that maybe the older generation was right on Gen Z, at least in this regard, because this is really rough. Like, I don't want to go into the workplace and work with somebody who thinks that they've got it all figured out. I don't want to be around that kind of person. I don't want to be around somebody who thinks they know it all. And the idea that is being presented of Shannon being a thought leader while also talking about, like, that she's a whore doesn't make much sense and is not a good look at all. In fact, the comments definitely resonate with how awful not only the rap is, but the sentiment behind it. That or you know, it comes off as like Shannon's whole escapade of becoming the artist who quit Disney and that being her branding, right? It almost makes her seem like she can't handle workplace conflict. Like, this rap video tells me something about Shannon. It tells me that in the story that Shannon has constructed, there is another side to this that we aren't seeing. It almost seems as if Shannon was actually kind of crappy to work with, and, you know, she just ended up getting fed up with how annoyed people were with her, and she left. You know, again, I wasn't there. I'm not going to say that I know. I'm just saying that I feel like we're missing a part of this puzzle. I don't know. Shannon's young, you know, so on one hand, I would gesture to her, maybe, you know, instead of posting this content on YouTube, instead of all this negativity, you know, cultivate yourself instead of content to put on into place where you'll never fill it up with enough content. You know, like, people want to see an artist make amazing things, right? That is why people are so awestruck and inspired by people. Cultivate a personality that will bring other people to go, maybe I can be independent. Maybe I can be more confident to break away from the traditional animation industry. You know, maybe I could secure my future and my family, you know, and stop breaking my back working 80 hours a week. You know, there are ways that you could inspire people, but honey, is this not it?